I interviewed another guy this morning from Black Sites, if you're familiar with them, out of Chicago.
Mm-mm.
Man, they're like I described them. I went to a concert earlier last year, and it was like thrash band, Trauma, the thrash band, Marty Friedman, and Queensryche. And it was
Oh
like if you
shit.
took all three of them and just put them on a record, it was great.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, so
I
I
see it.
go
Oh, I
ahead.
was just gonna say, I see your guitar. Was that an ESP?
Yeah, yeah. I've been this is the room I work. I do a lot of telework too, and I work out of this room. I've been trying to clean it for like a week, but it has like my daughter's music stuff, my music stuff. So I was like, I'll just clean up.
Oh yeah, that's how my whole house is.
I'm sure. And as a player, you probably have one in every room.
I'm sitting here where I'm sitting right now. I see one, two, three, four guitars out of cases on a chair. One, two, three, four, probably five in cases, six in cases. My mandolin is over there. And that's just this room, and that's just what's here and not over at the studio. Um, yeah, there's a bunch of guitars over at Josh's place. Most of the weird stuff actually, like my sitar's over there, my 12 strings over there, my lap steel, the banjo. This stuff that it's like when we when I hear a need for one of those things on the next record or whatever, they're over there for now. I should really have some of them back here probably with me so I can use them to write things. But I mean, realistically speaking, I'm not bringing a fucking. I used to bring a sitar out for shows, but a sitar is such a cranky instrument.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
Is it temperamental, like to a lot of changes? Like,
well, what it is it's like they're janky with the tuning to begin with, and then like I tried to have it in a different tuning to get the best thing out of it for the song. I used to use it on Black Rhino at
okay.
shows, and it, it doesn't like to get in tune. It's they're cranky instruments. You know what I mean? It's amazing to me that anyone, and it's an electric sitar, so it's tuned like a regular guitar,
Okay.
but it's got a special bridge on it that makes it sound like a sitar. It's really cool sounding, and it's fun to play. It gets like a great thing going on, and I always like the moment of like in the show where I'd be like, hold on a second, let me pick this up, and then I pick up this baby blue electric sitar, and I've got my guitar on my back, and I pick up the electric sitar, and it's just kind of people like, oh, what's going on here, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but I think it was like after a show one time, or it might have been on a not on a show day. Josh was like, "Yeah, we got to talk about the sitar." I'm like, "Well, what's up?" And he just kind of goes, "It's like it just it doesn't stay in tune well, and I don't think it's really doing you any favors." I'm like, "Okay, good note, fair note. I'll stop bringing it with because who needs to have? I mean, it's a whole other instrument to try and keep it tuned. I have to stop and pick it up. Um, I mean, it's fine when we're at like we definitely had some shows where it's like if I had a friend or two who was there at the show, I'd be
Yeah.
like, hey, if I call you over during our set, just bring me that guitar. And some people get a kick out of like bringing the guitar on stage, and
Yeah.
like we did that at Doomfest, and one of my buddies, who's a kind of a shy guy, but he wanted to be involved in it. I was like, yeah, can you bring me my guitar, bring me the sitar during our set, and I made a big deal out of it. I was like, one of the coolest things about playing rock and roll is that like, someone brings you a sitar when you ask for it, or something like that.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it is kind of a cool thing, but at the same time, it's also like, you know, I trust Josh if he says it doesn't sound good, like it's like sounding janky. I'm like, well, I don't want to sound shitty. You know what I mean? Like, I like the idea of having the sitar, but if it's not going to cooperate, one out of a sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I want to be able to put on a consistent show, so I'll just play it without it. I mean, we have a lot of the other elements from that recording live. Like we have the guitar, we have Jack is playing a Farfisa style organ on it, and the drums and bass are there, and I'm playing guitar. So that's listen. If we got everything on that song live that we put on the record, there'd be like 10 guys on the stage. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? So it's like we're not going to have a guy come up and play like a harmonium drone, et cetera, and djembe and et cetera. Like we can't
sure,
do all that stuff. So I was like, you know what? If I have to put down the sitar and not bring it, that's cool. It's just like in a studio environment, you get it exactly tuned how you want it, and then while you have it tuned like that, you get the take.
sure.
You know what I mean? But live you don't necessarily have that luxury thing. It gets hot or it's cold, shit gets bumped,
Humid.
humid, cold,
Yeah,
dry, wet, whatever it is.
yeah,
Or like, it's sitting on a stand, someone walks by it and goes, oh, neat, hits it, and then next thing you know, it's out of tune, and then you're take it on stage and you're like, and that's the other thing is it's like part of the charm is that it kind of does sound a little out of tune. Like it's a little bit shitty sounding. That's kind of what makes it sound, in my opinion. It's part of what makes it sound cool. Is like
yeah,
it's a little, like the jankiness is part of the charm.
sure. I get it.
You know, um, why the fuck am I talking about that?
I don't know. I'll be
Oh,
honest
I was
with
saying
you.
a bunch of guitars in the house. Yeah.
For those of you who are just tuning in, I fucked up and didn't delete a video. So we've already been talking about a lot of this shit for like a half an hour. And I started the first interview with a list of questions, and I never even got to any of them.
All
We
right,
just
hit me.
talked for a half hour.
Yeah.
And now that we've talked for a half hour, and now that you've just talked, I think I've gotten like five more questions for you out of the
All right,
like.
I'll try to answer them succinctly. Let's go.
So the first one was one, how the hell did you get into like sitars and mandolins, and where did you get these influences from? As a metal band or a doom band, like I said earlier, you're not a straightforward doom band like Pagan Altar, Electric Wizard. But like you interject these sounds, and that's just what the charm in Thunderbird Divine is to me, is the eclecticness and just the diversity of the songs. But where did you hear like didgeridoos, and like where did you get I remember, and like every time I hear the didgeridoo, I remember there was a store in the mall that was like this earth sciencey store that had didgeridoos, and I used to play with it as a little kid. So every time I hear that in your song, I remember that moment. But it's
Yeah.
like you have so many of those sounds, like the banjo. I just recently inherited a banjo from my deceased grandfather. I can't play it, but it sounds amazing. So when I hear it in your song, I think of my grandfather. And it's
Okay.
like there's so many of these little nuggets just
Yeah.
tucked away in the corners of your songs, which is another reason, like I told you earlier, why I go into like I'll listen to your album 30 or 40 times versus two.
Right.
And
Right.
like it's just and it's simple to ask, like, oh, what are your influences? Is Ted Nugent your favorite guitar player? But like it's just your sound is so much more diverse than any other band I've ever heard, really.
Well, so to answer your initial question, where did I get that? Where did we get that stuff? Right.
Yeah.
Um. Well, I'm not a regular ass metalhead. I guess like a lot of metal really bores me because of the stuff you just said. Like the stuff you said. It's like it delivers what it says on the package, right?
Right.
Like like any of those. Cut it out. Oh my god, my dogs have decided to like get into it just now. You two don't be jerks. Um. So,
That's all right. I got my two here too.
yeah, but he's running around in fucking circles. I have this German Shepherd, and then I also have. Cut it out. Get out of here. Stop being it. Oh, he's got the zoomies, and she's not playing with her.
That's okay.
Yeah. So I'm a shitty metalhead. In that, like, Josh and I talk about it all the time too, because he's a metalhead. I mean, he's like 10 years younger than I am too. The other guys are both 10 years younger than me. So I came up on a different thing, right? Where they came up with like Metallica and all that stuff. I heard Metallica when it first came out in the '80s, right?
Yeah.
And I always liked. You'll know this, right? Damage Incorporated.
Yep.
It starts at dun, da, da, and has that like dramatic nylon string, harmonized thing going on. I'm like, that's fucking cool. And then it goes, and I'm like, they blew it. You know what I mean? But that's my mindset. So it comes from partially my influences, which is more, I was like a Led Zeppelin head, and there's a lot of banjo and mandolin and stuff like that. Weird synths and some of the later stuff. In the Light has that weird like drone thing in the beginning.
Yeah.
And of course, Gallows Pole has banjo and stuff like that. So I was like a big Led Zeppelin guy. So I liked a lot of that stuff. I liked a lot of like sort of more out there stuff, and like Santana was a big influence for me. And also weird shit like, well, I wouldn't say weird, but like more like out there progressive stuff like Jethro Tull. And that, of course, that we actually cover Locomotive Breath at shows. We're not going to record it, but we cover it live just for funsies.
That's cool.
So to answer your question, that my exposure to that stuff came from being exposed to that when I was younger, and I fought against it when I was younger. But I had a very good friend who passed a few years ago, but he was a very good friend of mine, and he helped us work on Magnasonic. He did a lot of help with production on that, and I miss him dearly. And I played on a lot of his records as well. And one of the things he always said, he was like, I'm like, oh man, I don't know how to play mandolin. I'm like, so he'd say like, well, make it so you do know how to play it. Like, fuck around with it, fuck it up. You don't like the way it's tuned regularly, tune it some other way. And so like that's kind of my thing. It's been like, for example, you said you just inherited a banjo and you don't know how to play it. Yeah, you kind of do though.
Yeah,
you kind of do. Like, it goes ba-boing, 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 and slap a tuner on the headstock, put it, look it up online how you're supposed to tune it, mess around with it like that, look up some banjo chords. If you don't like it that way, retune it in the way you do like it.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, the banjo that's on Old Black Crow,
okay,
that's not a banjo record. That's not a banjo tuning. That's my tuning.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so you don't know how to play a banjo, but yeah, you do. You know how to put your hands on the strings, right?
Yeah.
Make it your own. Do your own thing with it. And that's the same way I feel about like all those other instruments as well. Melodica. I don't know how to play melodica, but Jack does. And so, and I could figure out how to play it myself, but he already knows how to play keys. So let the guy who knows what he's doing do it.
Sure.
So some stuff it's like you figure out how to do on your own, right? And other stuff that you don't know how to do, and you like, I will never sound like a girl singing high backups. Never. I don't have that voice. I can't sing those pretty. Guess what we did? We got some girls to come in and sing the backups because they can sound like girls and I can't. None of us can. None of us boys can.
Sure.
So we got the ladies to come in and sing, and it gave that texture that we're looking for. Do I know how to play keys? Absolutely fucking not. I have no. I mean, I dick around with it, but
Sure.
I'm not a keyboard player. However, did I play some keys on this record? Did I play some synth? Yeah, because I found the notes I wanted and I put them together. Now I'm not as good at it as somebody like Jack who actually plays keyboard, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
As long as it's as long as it's scratching that itch and giving you the sound you're looking for, then it's cool, So like, yeah, that's where I got it from, and that's how I learned. And so yeah, like technically, yeah, I'm playing some banjo on there, and I'm playing, we're playing some kalimba. And do I know how to play kalimba? Fuck no, I don't know how to play kalimba. Neither does Josh, but he played it, and so did I.
But I think like when we spoke earlier, you were saying about, or like when we spoke not earlier today, but earlier the last interview.
Yeah.
You were saying about how you would have a sound in your head.
Yeah.
And I think the confusing part for me, maybe it's because I'm so new at guitar, is how do you know that sound is a sitar or like?
Well, okay. Well, all right. I get what you're saying. So what it is the more exposed you are to these different things, the more you're like, I know it'll do the sound that I want, you know?
Okay. Yeah, that makes
So,
sense.
so for example, when Josh was like, "Oh, I borrowed this cool thing from my buddy. He's in another band, like a really good. Uh, you would love them. They're Jesus, I don't know what you call them. They're like brutally fast. Like they're
Let's go.
good.
What's your name?
They're called Frost Giant.
Frost Giant?
Yeah, yeah, they're great. Their drummer, they're all awesome dudes, and Josh plays bass for them. And their drummer Armin is an absolute animal. He looks like he's from the Lord of the Rings, and seriously, huge red hair, giant beard, and the fastest feet you ever heard. Brrr, sounds like that.
Yeah.
You'd love it. But Josh was like, and that band likes to collect weird shit too, like weird instruments, right?
Yeah.
And Josh was like, "Oh, you're never gonna believe this weird thing that I borrowed from the drummer." And I'm like, "What is it?" And he's like, "It's an Appalachian water pipe." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've played one of those." He's like, "What the fuck, man?"
Yeah, like, like who the fuck comes up to somebody and is like, oh yeah, I play Appalachian water pipe.
Well, okay, so it was my friend who worked on Magnasonic with us. His name was LD Bechtel. Um, Small time famous in the indie rock circles or whatever. He passed a couple years back, but he had his own Appalachian water pipe that lived at my house for several years. And it's like this brass thing with these long brass sticks, and they're all different lengths and stuff. And you play it with a violin bow, and you put water in it. And the more water you have in there, the higher the pitch. The less water, the lower the pitch. And you bow it with a violin bow, and it sounds really fucking creepy. Um, and so Josh was like, "Oh yeah, I borrowed one of those. You wait till you hear this thing." I'm like, "I've heard those. Those are awesome." He's like, "Dude, what the fuck? Is there any instrument I can put in your face that you don't know?" And I'm like, "Well, I just I know a lot of instruments, and I'm good at some of them. I dick around with all of them. I don't own all of them anymore, but like there's like Marxophone, Marxolin. Those are great instruments. There's all those kinds of things. So what happens is the more exposed you get to this shit, the more you start saying like, and like also the more you know about what can be done, right? So it's like, oh, I want something that's gonna go like, bleh. And I'm like, okay, it sounds like a really low note, but it's running through a filter, and then you open the filter, and it goes from like, you know, it
Yeah.
doesn't go up in pitch; it just the tone changes, and then it's just a matter of finding what thing makes the sound you like. And in this day and age, there's so many instruments out there that you can get online or
Yeah.
for free offline, for free online, or and then like once it's in the computer, like the world's your oyster. You
Yeah.
can reverse it, you can put it through filters and delays and all kinds of crazy shit. You can pitch alter it, you can cut it up, you can, all this stuff. And so like I guess the big thing is just like embracing the possibilities that exist. Um so yeah, that's kind of where that comes from. And then again, um, we don't say no to each other. So it's like, you know, um, I hear a theremin part there. All right, let's try it. Get the theremin, and like,
I funny you mentioned that. I was just going to bring up when you finished talking. I
yeah,
watched a clip of Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden a couple days ago, and I want to say he was playing like the Whiskey or somewhere like that in Los
mm,
Angeles, somewhere smaller. And he had some shit, and he was doing, and I was like, I don't know what that instrument is, and I had just scheduled the interview with you, and I was like, I guarantee you, Thunderbird Divine probably used that at one point on their album.
I use it live at every show.
Yeah,
I have three theremins. Um, there's one that I use all the time, but yeah, I've been playing theremin since about 2009. Um, I'm not particularly good at it, but I know how to make a racket.
yeah.
Um, and I put delay on it, and I play with the delay and make it. You get all kinds of. The more you dick around with something, the more adept you become with like knowing what its foibles are. Like I'm sure Eddie Van Halen didn't just pick up his guitar and goes like, "I bet I can make this sound like an elephant," but then he did learn to make it sound like an elephant. So it's just a matter. Um, it's a matter of just fucking around and seeing what you can do. That's really all it is.
the guy who talked me into starting this whole channel thing,
Mm,
and he was my roommate in the Marines, and he talked me into getting a guitar, and then he said he promised me he was going to teach me and help me, and then he passed away, and so
mm,
now I'm stuck with a channel and a guitar, and neither one I know how to run, you know. But
mm.
the last thing he said to me when we were talking about a guitar, and he said, you always want to remember, because everybody always says a guitar is just a tool to make the music. But he
Absolutely.
says a guitar isn't a tool. The guitar is a game. That's why you play it. You want to
Ah,
play it, you want to enjoy it. Don't treat it like a tool. He said, you beat the shit out of it. Whatever you can do to get the sound you want, that's what you do. And so, like, I think like for me, my and most musicians, especially in the metal field,
yeah,
have the blinders on. It's just guitar and, like we said earlier today, just straight chugging as fast as you can. Whereas somebody like you has a much broader color pattern, color palette, and therefore when you paint a picture, your picture is more vibrant, more vivid, more
well, there's more
eclectic.
colors. I use a lot
Yeah,
more colors. I have to tell you though, like live, it's just loud ass guitar and like rocking. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Um, live, and I don't have a problem with that. The studio is one thing, and the
sure,
live is another thing. And live, I'm just as much of a fucking guitar player as any other guy who's in a band. Like I want to play solos and I want to shred,
yeah,
and I want to like fucking get into it and get like get heavy with it. But like, and I don't have any problem because it live is one thing. If you play a wrong note and it's in the air and then it's gone, you know, in the studio you play a wrong note, you're going to hear that shit for the rest of your fucking life. Better go back and redo it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And it's like, oh, that's not the, that's not what I wanted, And
yeah,
then you go back and you got to change it because it's not what you wanted, right?
right.
Live, I embrace the moment and go for it. I try to play clean and play well, but like sometimes we have what we call adventures, and something nobody expected to happen happens, and
Sure.
sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. But we just, you learn to trust each other and trust yourself, and you just kind of go for it. Uh, different, like for example, if I was going to try to reproduce all the stuff that we got on record, I don't think I could do it as just one guy. First of all, and second of all, I would have to have a pedal board like a mile wide to get all that
Yeah,
shit. And I don't. I look. I'm not that coordinated. You know what I mean? I don't want to like tap dance all over the place. I'm turning the volume up on the guitar, turning it down, hitting the cues right, stepping on this pedal at the right time, and then I got to sing. I'm just gonna stand there and like shit my pants the whole set because I can't coordinate walking and chewing gum at the same time. So some shit you just gotta let go. Like that's just not gonna happen. And if you buy the record, you'll hear it the way I want it to sound all the time, but I can't make it be that way all the time. So there's a balance to it, and yeah, believe me, if I could bring a symphony orchestra and all the guys that I need, like if we had the budget, right, I
yeah,
would have like three backup singers all the time, two other guitar players, a second keyboard player, and just a gadget guy, like a guy who just like plays weird shit. You know what I mean? And then like me and the other three guys that are the core of the band would just like have this epic thing.
but
But
you're that guy. You're that guy. We can't,
well,
who
yeah,
the fuck else is a theremin player just laying around? Like, I'm just waiting for somebody to call me for theremin lessons. You know?
well, to be fair, I would be terrible at that because again, like I really don't know exactly what I'm doing. I know how to do the things that I do. I know how to make it,
Yeah,
make weird noises, but I'm not like real theremin players are artists in a way that I can't begin to fathom. Their sense of pitch and dynamics and everything, they can make it sound like a human voice. What I do is kind of reckless, uh, a reckless effect of noises and things like that. I mean, people always ask me about it, like, "What's that thing? What are you doing there?" And I'm like, "Well, it's a theremin and blah blah blah." But for the most part, it's like don't look at me for answers about how to play this fucking thing because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm really winging it. You
Sure.
know, you know.
But you can get it to do what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then I don't want. I think about that a lot because YouTube is full of people like showing lessons and like, okay, you want to learn how to sweep pick? Here's how you do it, and then and like I sometimes I look at it and I'm like, all right, let me see what that's all about, and for example, Scott from Salt of the Earth Records. I've mentioned him to you before. He's a good friend.
Sure.
He is a bad motherfucker on guitar. Okay, he used to be in Nuclear Assault.
Okay.
Yeah, Scott's a bad motherfucker. Okay, he can do that sweep picking shit like you would not believe. Like he once accidentally. This is funny. He accidentally sent me a clip of himself playing guitar, and he sends it over to me, and he just starts, ding, 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 doing a regular thing. I'm like, oh, Scott plays guitar. That's cool. I did not know this about him. And then all of a sudden he goes, shut up. Shut up, you dick.
Man, they listen really well.
What's that?
They listen really well.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. What was I going to say? So, and he's like, oh, shit, dude, I didn't mean to send you that. I'm like, it's like finding out your best friend has like a 24-inch dick. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
where'd that come from?
Yep.
I was like, Scott, I didn't know you could do that. He's like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. I'm like, you're embarrassed? Dude, you're amazing. I can't do that at all. He's like, yeah, but you're really good. I'm like, nice of you to say so, but what you're doing is beyond my scope of ability in a big way and beyond my scope of comprehension. Like, yeah. I don't know how that works. I don't know how you do that. So sometimes I'll watch videos of that. But, for the most part, I'm like, all right, so I learned how to sweep pick, right? Then what?
Yeah, like do you really even have a need for sweep picking in your music?
No, I don't. I don't have a need for it. And honestly, I think it would sound dumb in what we do. Like the skill is great, like being that accurate and everything like that. And I play every day. I practice. I wouldn't say I practice. All right. So here's the other thing, the other element. I have like something like 550 songs on a playlist that I pick from every single day, and I usually take about an hour and a half every day, and just play and sing for that amount of time. And if you saw the playlist as a metal guy, you'd be like, this is not a metal guy at all, because I'm singing Alicia Keys, I'm singing Adele, I'm singing, Chairman of the Board, I'm singing Todd Rundgren, um, Teddy Pendergrass, like whatever tickles my taint at that moment, I'm gonna pick. If I'm scrolling through, sure. Like, oh yeah, Turn Off the Lights by Teddy Pendergrass. Let's play that one right now.
Man, and I heard that in years.
Oh, that song is so good.
Yeah, it is.
Teddy from Philly. That's our man right here.
I didn't know he was from Philly.
Yeah, he was in a band called oh fuck. It's escaping me right now. But he was in a band. He was the drummer in the Blue Notes, and he started singing, and it was just like he just went off on his own. But yeah, Teddy's awesome.
Yeah,
what a voice. There's no R&B singers like that anymore. Who like, Eddie Murphy used to joke about it. He'd be like, "Turn off the lights, turn them off," And there was no other R&B singer who's that masculine anymore. Everybody else is kind of like nowadays is a little, ooh, girl. It's like it's not the same. Yeah. Teddy sings like a fucking man, right? And he sounds like he could put it on you. You know what I mean? Like he's and like so yeah, and also he's a Philly dude, and he's awesome. So I'll sing Turn Off the Lights. But like so that's the other thing is like hearing all that stuff. I'll sing anything from, like I said, from Adele and Alicia Keys to the band. Like I'll definitely sit here like sing The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down. I'm not Southern, but I don't give a shit. Like it's a good ass song, I'll sing The Weight. I'll sing Screaming Trees.
Oh, man, so good.
I'll just do that stuff for an hour and a half every day just to keep my voice working like I want it to work, keep my pitch good, and stay on top of chord changing. I'm getting to be an older man, and hands don't do what you want them to do as much anymore. So gotta kind of stay limber and all
Trust
that.
me.
Yeah.
Try
So
learning with this shit, you know?
yeah, exactly. So yeah, that the the variety of influences and things that like occur to me, like there's not too many other bands that we know that would cover. We covered a Barry White song.
Sure, I'm a huge Barry White fan. And funny note, the guy who talked me into picking up guitar, if he was still alive, I'd kill him. But we used to listen to Barry White's "You're My First, You're My Last, You're My Everything" every morning in the Marines. We would brew coffee to that song every morning for about 3 years.
Yeah. So I mean, and you know the song "I'm Gonna Love You Just a Little Bit More, Babe."
Yeah,
That's the one we covered.
yeah,
And like I remember because I introduced it to the boys. I was like, Mike, check this out. And he like our drummer listened to it. He's like, yo, that beat though. What the fuck? Because it's that, you know.
yeah.
And we were just and it has that riff.
Yep.
And I was like, that is dying to be remade. And like I had some misgivings about it, big misgivings about doing it, because like, great, I just opened a whole fucking can of worms because now I have to try to sing a Barry White song. I am not a baritone, and I am not Barry White.
Barry White was a smooth motherfucker too.
Yo, he had a lot of kids, dude. He had a lot of fucking kids, and he smoked tons of cigarettes. Have you ever seen or heard rather audio of it? You could look it up. It's hilarious. It's outtakes. He's supposed to be doing a commercial for Paul Quinn College and a concert he was doing at Paul Quinn College.
No, but I'll look it up.
You will pee. It's so fucking funny because he's clearly something's going on. I don't know what it is. I wouldn't say he was on anything because I don't know that to be a fact. But he's having a hard time with the script. And so it's Barry White with the Barry White voice, like, "Hi, I'm Barry White. Paul Quinn College welcomes you to." Fuck! Do it again. I'm going to do it again. Stupid motherfucker. Okay. Okay. "Hi, I'm Barry White. Paul Quinn College invites you to a beautiful night of night." Shit. And it's like, no, this motherfucker got all these dumb words in here he don't need. It's hilarious. If you listen to our version of "I'm Gonna Love You Just a Little Bit More,"
yeah,
we have that clip playing at the end of the song. You can hear it under. We have it backwards and forwards.
I'm gonna go back and revisit it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's worth it. I also put a little what's that song called? "The Message" by Grandmaster Flash and the
Furious Five. Such a good song.
Well, you know that did it.
Yep.
I played that on sitar on that song.
On sitar.
Yeah. Yeah. If you go back and listen to it, you'll hear it. It was one of those things. It's like, oh, here's a little reference for you, you know?
I will. I think the first time I interviewed you, I don't think Little Wars was out in its entirety yet. And so I ended up going back through. There was a Barry White cover, and I don't remember off the top of my head the other song you covered.
Well, we did "Crazy Horses."
That's it.
By the Osmonds. That's
the Osmonds.
Yeah, that's a weird one. And also we did a cover of a Yardbird song called "Happenings 10 Years Time Ago." Yeah, the Crazy Horses one, that was the first thing we recorded with Josh and the first thing we recorded with Josh and Jack in the band. I kind of wish we had recorded it a little bit heavier, like more like how it sounds live. But you know, even on that one, you could hear a kind of some of our silliness in there. In that, like, I can't believe this dipshit is in here barking at nothing. Yeah, I know, it's just distracting to me, and she'll keep barking until I don't. Shut up. She's mad.
Got to get her last couple words in.
Yeah, I know, right? So at the end of our version of "Crazy Horses," you can hear some, like, you know, we opened up the mic in the room, and I was like, "Mike, you know, do something over the end of the song." And he's like, "They're crazy, the crazy horses. Oh, yeah, oh, they're everywhere. They're crazy, you know." And then we opened up the mic for Jack, and he's just like, "Crazy horses, they're everywhere. They're everywhere." and then we're all chanting "Crazy Horses," crazy, like that kind of thing in the background. Um, I'm happy with the version we did of it. I do kind of wish I had made it a little bit heavier and stuff like that, but I'm overall still pretty happy with it. And people who know, they know. You know what I mean? When we play that live sometimes. And I usually start that one by saying it's like, if you remember this one, you should probably get your colon checked right about now. Like that kind of thing. Um, yeah, we have, it's got to be a good color.
So I grew up I grew up in the suburbs, but it was a predominantly, I would say it was like a 50-50 black white community. So I
Mm-hmm.
grew up, my best friend, he ended up, while we were kids, he's a rapper now, but I grew up listening to hip hop. And so, like, I was really into Tribe Called Quest and the Beastie Boys because they would do some funky things with their recording, as far as like, I want that one snare off of Ornette Coleman's The Shape of Jazz to Come. And so he would buy that record. Or when I read the Beastie Boys autobiography, they had, I can't remember, the Lee Perry, it was Scratch Lee Perry. And he was, they would record with basketballs and the bass drum to see like what it would sound like. And so I always thought that recording process was cool. And now to see it like from the musician, getting to pick their brain and getting to see the final product. Like I said earlier, you guys took some big ass gambles on this album, but I think every one of them paid off tenfold. And I can't speak highly enough. It sounds like I'm kissing your ass. I really enjoy the album. I mean,
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, that's what you want to hear, right? Like,
yeah,
like, I mean, it makes us feel good to know that people like it. Um,
there's just a lot of shit on there that like I've never heard before. Like I said earlier, the Black Rhino mantra, the Indian intro, or the Arabic
yeah,
intro.
yeah, it's Indian. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was like Indian, but you get that whole like as soon as you start hearing that song, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh man, it transports me to like a desert oasis and with
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
magic carpets, and you're like, oh man, this is killer.
Yeah.
Like you don't get that shit from Exodus, and nothing wrong with
Of
Exodus.
course not. No. No, that's just not something they do.
Yeah,
I mean, part of it is they have a brand, right? Like they have a brand where you're
you
going
have
to
to
hear
protect
thrash,
it.
right? And you're going to hear thrash. Like
Hey, just to let you know, there's 2 minutes left again. We keep running out of time on these. I still got fucking questions, but they might
uh,
have to wait till next week. But
okay. So my point is that's their brand. I'll
sure.
make this as concise as I can. That's their brand. From our first record, when we made Magnasonic, it's an out there record. It's heavy. It's weird. It's creative. It's different. It's a different record. That was premeditated to make a record that was kind of all these different things, so that no matter what we did afterwards, even if we made like a straight doom record after that, people would be like, yeah, okay. Or if we made like a real twee pop record, people are like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Or we kept making weird shit, people are like, yeah, that makes sense. So that was like the idea. So we created, not for lack of a better way to put it, a brand, a vibe that like whatever we do, it's going to have our stamp on it. But like we don't have to stay in any particular realm. And like I said, that was premeditated so that we're not typecast or stereotyped into one little box of what we can do and what we can't do.
Sure.
So that was our initial goal, and I'm glad we did that so that we could keep making the kinds of records we like to make.
Well, you did a great job of it. It's a
Thank you.
fucking killer record.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
And thank you so much for meeting with me again today. I apologize about the first interview, but fuck it. We'll just do it next week, you know?
We can talk as often as you want, dude. You're like not an interviewer anymore. You're like my buddy.
Yeah, yeah, dude. Cool conversation. So I'm going to reach out to you. We'll schedule something for next week.
Word. All right, buddy.
Thanks, Erik. It's really great talking to you, dude. We'll do this all the time.
Yes, sir. I'm into it.
Cool, dude. Me too.